for me, as I heard what was happening there, and I've been following it a little bit. Um, the question I asked myself is, the federal government has a responsibility to secure our borders. We know that. There's no question about that. But in the absence of them doing that actual work, are we supposed to be sitting ducks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's assume that Texas sees someone with a bazooka, with a tank coming across the border, right? With a drone that could be armed coming across the border, with surveillance equipment coming across the border. Is Texas supposed to say, well, since the US government is responsible for the border, we can just observe and watch this happen and watch an invasion? And I know people have taken the word invasion and said, oh no, this is not an invasion. This is not, when we talk about invasion, we talk about it in military terms. And this, are just people who need help and they're seeking help, and we shouldn't call it an invasion. And I say, if the people who support these policies, they are the same people who have changed almost the meaning of every significant word in our country, you know? And so how dare they say we can't redefine invasion, right? But it is an invasion when you have 10 million people unauthorized entering into a location that they're not supposed to be in. And so my feeling about this is, yes, Texas has not broken any laws. The Supreme Court did not say anything about their right to put those barbed wire, razor wire on the border. The Supreme Court did not address that at all.
Mm-hmm.
All it said was the federal government has the right to go in and potentially cut those wires. That's
Yeah.
it. And so they have not violated any law by putting the wires there. If the federal government decides to go cut those wires, they can do so. And then the question will become, what does Texas do if that becomes the case? And they're, potentially going head to head in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But in the grand scheme of things, this is basically hitting at the root of our union
Yeah.
in this country. Because what people don't realize is, you know, our country has 50 states that are all independent.
Mm-hmm.
And the continued United States, we almost like take it for granted that we have the United States. We take it for granted, and we think that, there's nothing that could happen that would cause us to break apart.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Soviet Union thought the same thing too, right? They thought, we have all these, states, and we would never break apart. And the question is, how do you break apart a country like this? And if you want to know the answer to that question, look at exactly what is happening right now.
Yeah.
Because you're creating sentiments that will eventually, if left unchecked,
Mm-hmm.
sow the seeds of secession, sow the seeds of a potential breaking apart of our union. Because the continued existence of the union is predicated on the federal government doing certain things to ensure that the state's sovereignty is protected. And so once the federal government abdicates its responsibility, eventually the states are going to take on that responsibility themselves. And that's what Texas is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, now that you have this standoff with all 25 Republican-led states saying we support Texas, now you're creating potentially a faction that will end up dividing the country if not checked.